in the heart of a bustling modern city, where skyscrapers gleamed like glass giants and traffic hummed through the streets like an endless song. There lived a woman named Alina Hayes. To anyone who looked from the outside, Alina had built a life that seemed steady and enviable. She worked as a creative director at one of the city's most sought-after design firms, lived in a cozy apartment overlooking the park, and carried herself with a grace that made people believe she had everything figured out. But what no one saw, what she never allowed anyone to glimpse, was the scar she carried inside, a scar left behind by the man who had once held her heart and then vanished without a trace 10 years ago. T's name was Adrian Cole. Adrian hadn't just been her first love, he'd been her world. They have met in college, both full of dreams and too much hope for the future. Who's brilliant, magnetic, the kind of man who made people turn when he entered a room. Alina had been quieter, more reserved, but when Adrian looked at her, she felt seen in a way she never had before. For years, they were inseparable, weaving plans about the lives they would build together. And then, one night, Adrian disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. Alina waited, she called, she searched, she begged mutual friends for answers, but Adrian had simply vanished, as if the city had swallowed him whole. Eventually, reality forced its way in. She buried her grief under work, under ambition, under routines that left no room for questions that had no answers. 10 years passed, and though she never said his name aloud anymore, his absence still haunted her in the quiet moments when the city went still. But life has a way of bringing the past back when you least expect it. It was on a rainy Thursday evening that it happened. Alina had just wrapped up a long day at the firm and was cutting through a quiet street near the harbor. The storm had pushed most people indoors, so the sidewalks were empty except for one man leaning against a lamppost, his hood pulled low over his face. She wouldn't have noticed him except when she passed. He said her name, Alina. She froze, the sound hitting her like a thunderclap. Day voice. Couldn't be. Slowly, she turned, and there he was. Alina's shadows carved into his face that hadn't been there before. But it was him. B. The man who had left her behind. 2. The man who had broken her heart. Her breath caught in her throat. Drake didn't smile. C. He only said softly, I need to talk to you. 1,000 emotions crashed into courage, grief, longing, disbelief. For 10 years, she had imagined this moment, what she would say if she ever saw him again. But now, face to face, her voice was barely a whisper. You don't get to just show up after all this time. I know, he said. His eyes were tired, almost pleading. But there are things you don't understand, things I couldn't tell you then. Please, give me a chance. Every part of her wanted to walk away, to slam the door on this ghost of her past. And yet, the truth was, she had never stopped needing to know why. I guess. Her better judgment, she nodded once. Have 5 minutes. They ducked into a quiet cafe, the kind of place where rain tapped against the windows and the smell of coffee filled the air. Shri. Adrian sat across from her, his hands restless on the table. Alina's eyes burned into him, demanding answers. Finally, he spoke. 10 years ago, I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because I had no choice. Alina's laugh was bitter. No choice. You disappeared. You didn't even say goodbye. I couldn't, Adrian said firmly. Alina, I was in trouble. The kind of trouble that doesn't just ruin your life, it destroys everyone connected to you, too. I uncovered something back then. Something about the company I was interning with, too. They were laundering money for dangerous people, and I stumbled too close to the truth. I was threatened. They told me that if I didn't disappear, if I didn't stay silent, you'd be the one to pay the price. Her chest tightened. So, your answer was to vanish, too. Let me think you stopped loving me. Strion's voice cracked, too. I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. I thought, if you hated me, at least you'd be alive. Alina's hands trembled around her coffee cup. 10 years of unanswered questions, 10 years of loneliness, and this was his secret. Had left her to protect her. Anger and heartbreak warred inside her. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Talk. You took away my choice. You left me in the dark. I know. Adrian whispered, and I've regretted it every day since. Silence hung between them, heavy and raw. For a moment, Alina thought she might walk out, leave him to his regrets. But then she noticed something in his eyes, fear, not of her, but of something else, something still lingering. What aren't you telling me? She demanded. Adrian's jaw tightened. They're still out there, the people I crossed 10 years ago. I thought I was free of them, but they've found me again. If they know I've spoken to you. He stopped, his gaze dark, jaw in danger now too. The ground beneath Alina seemed to shift. Betrayal cut deep. But so did the realization that her life might now be entangled in a web of secrets she never asked for. That night marked the beginning of a storm she could never have predicted. Shadows followed her home. Strange calls came at odd hours. And through it all, Adrian appeared like a ghost in the edges of her life, sometimes near, sometimes gone, but always watching. Conflicted emotions tore her apart. Part of her wanted to scream at him, to never forgive the man who had shattered her, Patinata. Another part, the part that had loved him once so fiercely, still ached for him. And as the days passed and the threats grew closer, she found herself turning to him, if only because he was the only one who understood what was happening. Together, they uncovered the truth. The organization Adrian had crossed a decade ago was still alive, more powerful than ever, and willing to silence anyone who got in their way. The deeper they dug, the more dangerous it became. And through the danger, something unexpected began to stir again. Not easily, not fully, but enough to remind Alina of the bond they had once shared. But love born in shadows is never simple. Fifth, every glance between them carried the weight of their history. Every silence the echo of 10 years lost. Alina wrestled with her heart. Could she forgive him for the pain he caused? Could she ever trust him again? Since the answer came one night, when the danger struck in full force. Men cornered them in a deserted alley, threatening Alina to get to Adrian. And in that moment, Adrian did what he had done 10 years ago. He chose her safety over his own. He fought, shielded her, and took the blow meant for her. Alina dragged him to safety, her hands slick with his blood, her heart breaking all over again. Even as his strength faded, Adrian looked at her with a peace she hadn't seen in him before. Tears. I never stopped loving you, Alina. Not for a single day. Tears blurred her vision. Don't you dare leave me again. The fight for Adrian's life was long and brutal, but he survived. And when he woke in the hospital days later, Alina was there. This time, she didn't walk away. This time, he didn't hide. The road to forgiveness wasn't easy. Betrayal leaves scars, and secrets take time to heal. But slowly, carefully, Alina allowed herself to believe in him again. Not the boy who vanished 10 years ago, but the man who had returned broken, scarred, but willing to fight for redemption. And so, under the city lights that had once hidden their pain, they began again, not as who they were, but as who they had become. Stronger, wiser, still scarred, but no longer alone. Because sometimes love doesn't mean perfection. Sometimes love means surviving the storms, enduring the betrayals, and choosing despite everything to believe in redemption. And Alina, after 10 long years, chose to believe again.